Hi everyone, it's Margo. It's Saturday and I am taking a little break on my walk. I'm outside of my house. It's a beautiful day. I mentioned last time I was going to tell you a little story about being kind with ourselves during this kind of weird time. Especially we Weight Watchers, we tend to, I get it. The whole like weighing in every week and the tracking and all that. It's easy to get a little obsessive and perfectionist about things. And so when life throws you an unexpected curveball, sometimes we go a little bit nuts. So I would tell you a little story about when I was a baby Weight Watcher, and we'll see how the story goes. I don't know that I've told this story a few times in my Weight Watchers meetings with my members. I used to be a Weight Watchers leader, but I don't think I've ever blogged about it or talked about it on camera. So I've been a member, as I said, for like a little over 20 years. And I was in graduate school when I started Weight Watchers. And back then, of course, there were no smartphones. There was no app. And even Weight Watchers North America, I remember they didn't even have a website. They had a web page. And when you went to the web page, there was an 800 number that you would call, and a human on the other end would, you would tell them where you lived, and they would tell you where your closest meetings were and what times and so on. So, paper tracking, of course. And in the summer of 2001, my husband was, he was working in London all that summer. And so I went with him. So for me, it was a vacation. For him, it was work. And then afterwards, we went to Italy with some friends that he was working with. And I had to come home early because I had to be back in school. But he was finished working. He was on his vacation, so he stayed behind in Italy with our friends. And so I flew back to New York City, where we were living in New Jersey at the time, and I was going to school in New York City. So I flew back to New York City. I arrived on September 10th, 2001. So the following morning, my alarm went off, and I remember it like it was this morning. I remember it so vividly. I remember thinking as I was lying there in bed, because I hate jet lag. I get really affected by jet lag. And so the alarm went off and I just felt horrible. I felt so bad. And I was lying in bed and I thought, okay, well, if I take the subway to school, I have to get up right now. But if I drive into the city, I could sleep for like another 25 minutes. So I hit the snooze and I went to sleep. And I got up and I drove into the city. And of course, we all know what happened that day. Okay, you know what? The next part of the story is really hard for me to say out loud. So I'm just going to put it right here. This is what happened later. Now, that was on a Tuesday. And because I'd been in Europe, when I came home, there was no food in my house. And for those of us who lived in and around New York City in those days, like all the supermarkets were closed. Like not like now, the supermarkets were closed. And you couldn't get any, like all the ATMs were out of money, so you couldn't get any money. And the only food in my house, oddly, before, I can laugh about it now, but before we had gone to Europe, for some reason, my husband, who, as I mentioned before, my husband who has never been overweight a day in his life and is one of those naturally thin people. So before we left for Europe, my husband had gone to our local, our local supermarket, the Stop and Shop or the Pathmark or something. And he's like, they had this amazing sale on tin roof sundae ice cream. And so literally the only food in my house was about 3 gallons, literally like 3 gallons of tin roof sundae ice cream. Now the attack happened. Now my husband, mind you, is back in Europe. He's stuck in Europe. He can't come home after the Trade Center attack, which happened on a Tuesday. So for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, all I did was stay in bed and cry and eat ice cream and cry and eat ice cream and cry and eat ice cream. And I only ever got out of bed to go to the bathroom or put the ice cream back in the freezer because it was melting. Because I was eating it right out of the tub, naturally. Now, on my nightstand, next to my bed, was my little Weight Watchers paper tracker. In those days, it was like a little spiral binder. It wasn't like the little flimsy ones that you get at the meeting nowadays, if they even have that anymore. But it was like a little spiral notebook, and there it was on my bedside with a pen. And I'm telling you, I was tracking all the ice cream. So, like Wednesday, it was said like half a cup of ice cream, 5 points or whatever it was, a cup of ice cream, 3/4 of a cup of ice cream. And it sounds very silly, but things were so crazy. And you have to understand, like in New York City, in the New York City area, we didn't know if it was over yet, were there going to be more attacks? We did not know. And so I remember feeling like I had my little Weight Watchers tracker. And for some reason, I felt like if I can just track this ice cream, like I'm not paying attention to how much I'm having at any given time in the moment. If I can track it afterwards, maybe I won't lose my mind. It was the one little normal thing that I had to hold on to in that time. And I wasn't being a perfectionist about it. Because like I said, I'm always a track after the fact. I'm not a pre-tracker. I've never been a pre-tracker. I'm a very good tracker, but I always, shoot first, ask questions later kind of Weight Watcher. I'll have the thing and then, face the consequences and deal with them accordingly. So I did that for like I said, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Sunday, I woke up, I was out of ice cream. So I had to get out of bed. And I had wonderful neighbors. I lived in a high-rise. Todd and I lived in a high-rise. This is before we had kids. And so I had really good neighbors, wonderful, wonderful neighbors who had been calling and checking on me because they knew I was alone. They knew that I was planning to come back before my husband, so they assumed naturally that he was stuck there and that I was alone. And so Sunday I got up and probably didn't shower, if I'm being honest, but I got dressed and I went down to see, I had these great neighbors. They were a brother and sister, and one lived above me and one lived below me. So I went down to the sister's apartment, and I believe she cooked me a meal, like an actual meal. And then she had a car and her brother had a car because they didn't go into the city as often as I did. And so she was like, come on, hon, we're going to go. I'm going to take you shopping. And so she took me inland. We lived in, like I said, in New Jersey, but on the Hudson River, directly across from Manhattan. So she took me into New Jersey the other way, where things were not all shut down. And we took me to a farmer's market, and she bought me groceries, bought me a fridge full of groceries, vegetables and fresh meat and fresh everything, so that I would have food in my house. And that's really the great thing about these times is, they're scary. I know a lot of people are really freaked out right now. Maybe this time is like bringing up other sad things that happen in your life. But it's really important, even though we have to stay physically apart from each other, we can still be social. I don't like this. Why I don't like the term social distancing, because we're not social distancing, are we? We're physically distancing, but we're still very much socially connected. And in fact, all of us are saying, like, we should have been doing Marco Polo and FaceTime and all the other, why have we not been doing that more this whole time? But whatever kind of situation you're in, probably there's somebody who's a little bit more afraid than you are right now, or a little bit more sad than you are right now, that maybe you could check on, make sure they're okay. You know, like I was saying, my friend that we're not seeing, she sent me that card just to make sure we were okay, which was so sweet of her. But anyway, there's so many things in life that you cannot control. And I remember as a Weight Watchers leader too, so often I would see people come in and get on the scale and it would be a little bit up and they would just go nuts. They would be so hard on themselves. And I'd say, well, how was your week? Basically trying to ask indirectly, like, well, why do you think you got this result? And invariably, they often would say to me, like, oh, my husband had to go into the hospital this week, or I was really sick myself this week, or we were moving, or I started a new job, or, my husband lost his job. These major things that they were dealing with, and here they are beating themselves up for not being perfect on Weight Watchers. Like, what? First of all, just the fact that you showed up is amazing. And, we can only do what we can do. It's okay to be gentle with yourself when things are a little unexpected and nuts like they are right now. Some people can't get all the fresh groceries that they want. Some people have people who are sick, in your home that you're concerned about. I get it. So let's all just be super kind with ourselves, just like you would if it was your best friend. If it was your best friend who was totally freaked out right now, or, legitimately had stuff to worry about right now, you wouldn't be like, what's wrong with you? Why can't you stick to your Weight Watchers plan? You said you were going to lose a pound a week. Nobody would do that. So why do we do it to ourselves? That's all I'm saying. So anyway, I hope that was a useful story. I've been thinking, I think about it a lot at times like these, when life throws you a curveball like this, and but I had all these great plans. I meal planned my whole week. I didn't get to go to the store. So yeah, I think about that time a lot when I find myself falling into that, getting upset because I can't be perfect and my plans get wrecked. Anyway, so take care of yourselves. Oh, now it's getting gloomy. Oh, it's going to rain again. Man, see what I mean? I better get back before it starts to rain. Anyway, take care of yourselves. I'll probably throw another one of these up here sometime next week, and I'll see you soon. Bye, everybody. Okay, I don't know if you can make this out. There are wild green parrots in this tree right now. I'll try to zoom in, see if you can see them. And usually they're being unusually quiet. We have this massive flock of these green parrots, and they really blend into the trees. And you'll be walking by and they will squawk up a storm and scare you to death while you're walking by. But yeah, they're being surprisingly quiet. I wonder if they're watching me. Hello, parrots. Yep, something I see regularly all year long on my walks. They're all over San Diego. You see them everywhere.